Move it, old woman. This entrance isn't for people like you. The officer's hand slams against her shoulder. Eleanor stumbles. Her cane clatters to the marble floor, echoing like a gunshot in the morning silence. The second officer smirks and kicks it away with a lazy sweep of his boot, as if punting her dignity across the steps. There she stands, a 72-year-old black woman in plain clothes, dwarfed by two men in polished uniforms whose badges gleam harder than their humanity. Their smirks carry the weight of centuries. ID, the first officer barks, towering over her. Eleanor moves for her purse, too slowly, too calmly. Or are those ears as useless as those legs? The second one spits the words out with a chuckle meant for the crowd. Onlookers freeze. Phones rise into the air like a forest of silent witnesses. Not one dares to step forward. But Dr. Eleanor Robbins straightens her back. Pain lances through her knee, but her spine, unbreakable, her eyes, sharper than the blade of a gavel. And little do they know, they've just picked the wrong woman to humiliate. Because today isn't just any day. Today, after 5 decades of fighting in courtrooms across America, Eleanor Robbins is about to be sworn in as one of the newest justices on the state Supreme Court. Her driver had pulled up just 30 minutes earlier, nervous about dropping her at the public entrance. "Ma'am, this isn't the judge's entrance," he'd said, watching the long line of citizens snake across the steps. "Perfect," Eleanor had smiled. "I want to see what justice feels like from the people's side. No power suits today. No chauffeured arrogance. Just a plain cardigan, shoes that had walked through marches, and a cane that had tapped across history." Today she wasn't arriving as Justice Robbins, she was arriving as any other citizen seeking justice. At the checkpoint, the guards had seen her coming from a mile away. "Great. Another confused senior who can't read signs," Officer Thompson muttered, elbowing his partner. Reeves snorted. "Look at that get-up. Probably thinks she's going to Sunday service. $10 says she asks for directions to social services." They laughed, but Eleanor heard every word. She always heard it, the chuckles, the whispers, the dismissal. She'd heard it as a woman. She'd heard it as black. She'd heard it when poverty tried to drown her dreams, what they didn't know. She turned every insult, every doubt, every barrier into fuel. And in about 30 minutes, the very building they're guarding will call her Justice Robbins. She's been underestimated her whole life. She's turned every slight into fuel. Eleanor Robbins doesn't waver now. Her cane taps softly against the courthouse steps as she advances. Arthritis nipping at her joints like an old enemy she long ago learned to endure. "Good morning, officers," she says evenly. Her voice carries the kind of calm that makes men twice her size nervous. "I have an appointment inside." Thompson's jaw tightens. "Ma'am, this entrance is for people with official business only. I understand. I do have official ID." He cuts her off, palm thrust out, the gesture less request, more command. Eleanor's fingers work slowly at her purse clasp, stiff from age and cold. From her view, Thompson's impatience is a furnace. From his, she's just another problem clogging his morning routine. The credentials that would silence them rest just beyond her reach. Thompson doesn't wait. He steps closer, letting his shadow swallow her 5'4" frame. "Ma'am, this entrance is for people with actual business. Senior Center's 3 blocks down, unless you're lost." The words cut sharp as broken glass. Reeves chuckles, glancing at his partner. "Maybe she's here for bingo sign-ups." Eleanor doesn't flinch. Her eyes lock on Thompson's. "I have an appointment inside this courthouse." Reeves scoffs. "Oh yeah, what kind of appointment?" "Jury duty was last week." "I'm expected," Eleanor answers, her voice low, firm, carrying more authority than both men combined. Though they're too blind to hear it, her purse finally opens, then slips. Her wallet drops, scattering cards and papers across the polished floor like confetti at a parade no one asked for. She bends to retrieve them, pain searing through her knee. She winces, but refuses to give them the satisfaction of a cry. A young law clerk, barely 30, steps forward from the growing line. "Let me help you, ma'am." "Step back," Thompson barks, his hand hovering dangerously close to his belt. "We're handling this situation." The clerk hesitates, outrage flickering in his eyes, but she's clearly "Move along, kid," Reeves snaps, lips curling into a smile that doesn't touch his eyes. "Unless you're looking for trouble too." The young man meets Eleanor's gaze. She gives the smallest shake of her head, a silent order. "Don't. Not for me. Not today."
Now.
The clerk swallows his frustration and retreats. Eleanor lowers herself despite the pain, gathering her things with hands that have signed briefs, raised oaths, and written decisions that changed lives. Thompson watches, arms crossed, mistaking her quiet strength for stubbornness.
Yes.
This entrance is for court employees, lawyers, and official visitors, Thompson sneers. Not for people who don't belong here. Eleanor's jaw sets. She doesn't argue. She doesn't have to. She's cataloging each insult, each microaggression, each deliberate humiliation, storing them the way she always has. Because one thing is certain. Before the day is over, these officers will learn exactly who belongs here. From Thompson's eyes, she's nothing more than a stubborn old woman, dragging her heels and wasting his morning. This is the latest chapter in a book she's been forced to read her whole life. Her fingers finally close around her judicial ID card, the key that would end this entire charade in an instant. With effort, she rises, extending it toward Thompson. But before the truth can shine, his patience snaps. His hand slams against her shoulder, sharp, deliberate. The impact rattles through her body, sending her stumbling. Her cane strikes the marble floor again, the sound cracking through the entrance hall like a gavel of injustice. That's enough, Thompson snarls. This is a secure government building, not a playground for confused seniors. Reeves, never one to miss a chance at cruelty, smirks and kicks the cane, sending it skidding out of reach. Maybe next time you'll learn to listen the first time. Eleanor clutches the edge of the security desk, her knuckles white, pain tearing through her hip and knee, but her dignity untouched. The crowd gasps, a collective wave of disbelief. A woman in a sharp blue blazer dares to step forward. Officers, this is completely step back, ma'am, Reeves snaps, cutting her off without a glance. The woman's companion tugs at her arm, whispering frantically, "Don't get involved. It's the police." Eleanor's belongings lie scattered across the floor, her wallet, her reading glasses, a small notebook frayed at the edges. Thompson crouches, gathers them carelessly, and stuffs them back into her bag as if discarding trash. "I need my cane," Eleanor says, voice steady, regal even. Thompson doesn't bother looking at her. "You need to leave. Now, this is your final warning before I arrest you for trespassing." Reeves adds, his tone dripping with mock concern. "We can call someone to come pick you up. Is there a family member we should contact?" He says it like he's addressing a confused child who wandered off from daycare. Eleanor draws herself up, every inch of her 5'4" frame filled with 50 years of courtroom battles. She knows when to argue. She knows when to observe. She knows when to let men like this reveal themselves. Right now, she observes. Every word, every sneer. Every abuse of power, cataloged, recorded, weaponized. Because to Eleanor, this isn't just personal humiliation. It's a living, breathing exhibit of exactly why she took the judicial oath, to tear down a system that thrives on moments like this. The janitor pushing his cart halts mid-step. His eyes widen, recognition flickers. Justice Robbins. He opens his mouth, but Eleanor silences him with the smallest shake of her head. A command. Not yet. The janitor nods and slips away quietly, phone already in hand. Eleanor turns back to her oppressors. Her voice calm and unshakable, slices through the tension. "I will not leave. I have an appointment. I have every right to be here." The crowd presses closer, phones raised, lenses trained on every detail. Thompson's face darkens, authority unraveling under the weight of witnesses. His hand clamps down on her arm, hard enough to bruise. "That's it. You're leaving now." His grip tightens as he begins to drag her toward the exit. Eleanor doesn't resist. She doesn't have to. Because in this courthouse, where justice is supposed to live, justice has just walked through the front door. Every step Eleanor takes isn't just forward, it's evidence. Evidence she will carry into the police commission hearings. Evidence she'll use to carve reform into stone. "Remove your hand," she says softly, her voice low, but razor sharp. "You have no right to touch me." "I have every right," Thompson snaps back. His grip tightens, bruising her arm. "And if you don't start walking, you'll leave here in handcuffs." Eleanor's eyes flash steel behind fire. That look alone should have warned him. Everything is about to change. She makes a silent vow. She won't reveal herself. Not yet. What started as a simple observation has now transformed into a live experimenta. Brutal window into how citizens without her status are treated daily. She has the power to expose it, and she intends to. Around the corner, the janitor fumbles his phone to his ear, urgency shaking his voice. This is Frank, down at security. They're manhandling Justice Robbins, the new Supreme Court Justice. They have no idea who she is. He listens, breath short. "Yes, sir, right now. It's bad." Back at the entrance, Thompson marches Eleanor forward, still gripping her arm like a trophy. Without her cane, every step rips through her knee, but she doesn't stumble. She will not give them that satisfaction. The crowd has doubled. At least 7 phones capture the moment, each one a silent indictment. "Put those phones away," Reeves barks, striding toward them. No recording in a federal building. Eleanor lifts her chin, her voice cutting through the air like a judge's gavel. The public has every right to record police actions in public spaces. The Supreme Court affirmed this in Glick v. Kunif. The crowd murmurs. Reeves freezes. Thompson scoffs. You're not a lawyer, Grandma. Stop making things worse for yourself. If only he knew. Eleanor thinks of the 50 years she spent in courtrooms, of the 8 arguments she's delivered before the U.S. Supreme Court, the landmark case law she helped establish, including the very case she just cited. Inside the courthouse, Chief Justice Harrington slams his phone onto his desk. What do you mean they're manhandling Justice Robbins? His assistant swallows hard. The janitor says security is physically removing her from the building. Get Security Chief Martinez. Now, Harrington pushes back his chair. Should I alert the officers who she is? The assistant asks, hesitant. Harrington stops mid-stride, understanding flickers. Did she identify herself? Apparently not. Then neither will we. Not yet. His jaw hardens. Get Martinez. Meet me at the entrance. Back outside, Eleanor remains outwardly calm, though pain claws at her shoulder and knee. Thompson mistakes silence for surrender. Finally getting the message, huh? His voice is smug, like he's already written the ending. But Eleanor is writing the transcript in her head, every violation noted like a prosecutor preparing closing arguments. Unnecessary force, failure to provide accommodations, ignoring lawful requests, threatening bystanders. Each one another nail in his coffin. Thompson leans closer, his tone low, patronizing. Da-da-da-da-da, you know? All this could have been avoided if you'd just followed instructions. Eleanor meets his gaze head-on, her voice steady, prophetic. Officer Thompson, I suggest you remember this moment. You'll be revisiting it very often in the near future. And then his fatal mistake. That's it, Thompson growls, yanking handcuffs from his belt. Ain't you're being detained for obstruction and trespassing in a federal building. He jerks her arms behind her back. Pain rips through her shoulder, an old injury screaming to life. The crowd gasps again. Phones zoom in. And somewhere inside, Chief Justice Harrington and his team are sprinting toward the entrance. Thompson's career has just ended, and he doesn't even know it yet. Eleanor doesn't cry out, but the sharp inhale of pain cuts through the silence like a knife. You had your chance to leave nicely, Thompson sneers, the metallic snap of cuffs echoing like a death knell. A young woman with braids steps from the crowd, voice trembling but fierce. This is wrong. She's just an elderly woman asking for her cane. Reeves spins, hand on his taser. You want to be next? Step back. Step. The crowd recoils, but does not retreat. More phones rise, more lenses aim, more witnesses gather. Through it all, Eleanor stands perfectly still, her composure unshaken. Her voice, when it finally comes, is thunder wrapped in velvet. Officer Thompson, badge number 4872. Officer Reeves, badge number 5136. You are violating my civil rights under Section 42U. S Code, 1983. The words strike like a gavel. Thompson freezes, confusion flickering across his face. How could she possibly know their badge numbers? Not visible to the crowd, Eleanor continues, her voice carrying like a sermon. Every citizen has the right to enter a public courthouse without harassment. Your actions constitute assault, battery, and civil rights violations. The crowd stirs, murmurs ripple, but Thompson recovers with a laugh, though it lands hollow. Now you're a Supreme Court justice, huh? The irony hangs heavy in the air. The audience grows, court employees now peeking in, whispers crackling like fire. Above, a security camera pivots, its unblinking eye fixed on the scene. Reeves shifts nervously. Thompson. Maybe we should call the sergeant. For what? Thompson snaps, eyes locked on Eleanor. Because this trespasser knows some legal jargon. There's a lot of people watching, Reeves mutters, voice low. His partner cuts him off. Do your job. He raises the cuffs again. From Eleanor's perspective, every second confirms her mission. Reform isn't optional, it's survival. From Thompson's, the situation is spiraling. The crowd, the cameras, his partner's hesitation, all of it, slipping beyond his control. And then, the courthouse doors burst open. The Chief Justice's assistant charges out, Security Chief Martinez at her heels. Both freeze at the sight. Eleanor upright but cornered, Thompson forcing her arms back. Thompson doesn't notice. He's too busy barking. You're under arrest for trespassing and resisting an officer. He drones out Miranda rights like a robot. The crowd listens, wide-eyed. Eleanor tilts her head, calm as a storm before landfall. Officer Thompson, I strongly suggest you reconsider your actions, very carefully. Her tone makes bystanders lean in, sensing something they've missed. Officer Thompson, release her immediately. Martinez's voice booms, alarm twisting his face. Thompson ignores him. The cuff bites down on Eleanor's wrist with a brutal click. Reeves pales, eyes darting between the officials and his partner. Thompson, not now. Thompson snarls, shaking him off. And then, the doors swing wide a second time. Chief Justice Harrington steps into the lobby, towering at 6'3", his frame radiating controlled fury. The crowd instinctively parts, silence crashing down like a wave. Eleanor catches his gaze, subtle shake of her head, not yet. Harrington pauses, jaw tightening. He understands. Finally, Thompson notices the commotion. He turns, Eleanor's wrist still locked in cold steel. step back. This woman is being detained for unauthorized access and disorderly conduct. Martinez strides up, planting himself in Thompson's path. His voice drops into a growl, each word crisp, deliberate, lethal. That woman is Justice Eleanor Robbins, newly appointed to the state Supreme Court, and you are manhandling her on the courthouse steps. The words detonate in the air. Thompson's face collapses. First confusion, then disbelief, and a gut punch of horror. His eyes flick to Martinez, to Harrington, and finally, truly for the first time, to Eleanor. The world tilts beneath him. Everything realigns. His authority evaporates. That's impossible, he stammers. The handcuff key trembles in his fingers. Eleanor straightens, her spine like a column of marble. Her calm hasn't changed, but the atmosphere has everyone now sees her as she's always been. A figure of unshakable power. Her words are measured, steady, cutting through the silence. "My cane, please." The command lands with such quiet finality that Reeves scrambles across the marble, snatching it up like a guilty child returning stolen goods. Eleanor takes it in hand, not as a crutch but as a scepter. Reeves nearly trips in his haste, face pale, shame clinging to him like sweat. The crowd remains frozen, stunned into silence, their phones still capturing every second. A woman whispers frantically into her phone, her voice urgent, disbelieving. "You're not going to believe this. She's a Supreme Court justice." The Chief Justice steps forward, his ceremonial robes flowing like a tide of authority. His voice rings with thunder. "Justice Robbins, on behalf of this courthouse, I extend our deepest apologies." When his glare cuts toward Thompson, it could carve glass. Thompson fumbles desperately with the cuffs, his hands clumsy, finally freeing Eleanor's wrist. Red welts mark her skin, evidence of his arrogance. Eleanor takes her cane from Reeves with quiet dignity, nodding once in acknowledgement before fixing her eyes on Thompson. Her voice is steady, but it slaps harder than any shout. "Your actions today weren't just against me, officer. They were against the dignity owed to every citizen who walks into this courthouse." Thompson stammers, his excuses tumbling out like broken glass. I was just following protocol. You didn't identify yourself. How was I supposed to know?" Every word digs his grave deeper. Reeves instinctively takes a step away, as though distance might spare him from the fallout. Martinez's hand presses his radio, his voice clipped all steel. "Lieutenant Davis to the main entrance." Now, from Eleanor's perspective, this is the fulcrum, the pivot point where shame transforms into justice. She catalogs it all. The wide-eyed horror of courthouse clerks, the vindicated murmurs from the crowd, the crackling panic pouring off Thompson. For Thompson, time dilates. Every second is an eternity of unraveling, a career collapsing, a legacy in ashes. Martinez steps forward, inserting himself between Eleanor and the disgraced officers. "Badge and weapon, both of you now." Reeves obeys instantly, his hands shaking so hard the gun rattles against its holster. Thompson hesitates, frozen, clinging to denial. "That wasn't a request, officer," Martinez growls, voice low and lethal. As Thompson falters, Eleanor turns not to him but to the crowd. She lifts her chin, her presence commanding the entire lobby. "The difference," Eleanor says, her cane steady in her grip, "is that I can do something about it." She pivots to the Chief Justice, her voice calm but sharp as steel. "I believe we've just witnessed the first case study for our Reform Commission." The Chief Justice inclines his head gravely. "Indeed, and I assure you, Justice Robbins, this incident will receive our full and undivided attention." Eleanor turns back to Thompson, pinning him with a gaze that could make statues shift uncomfortably. "Officer, your actions will have consequences, but they will also spark change. In that way, despite your intentions, you have served justice today." From Eleanor's perspective, this moment is the crescendo of 5 decades of battle scars, trials, and relentless pursuit of accountability. A perfect case study, captured on multiple cameras, from multiple angles. From Thompson's perspective, nothing but rubble. The ruins of a career collapsing in real time, every cruel word and arrogant gesture now replaying in his head under the world's microscope. Martinez doesn't waste time. "Escort them to my office. Captain's been notified. The courthouse officers move in." Reeves obeys without resistance, shoulders slumped, already halfway surrendered. Thompson stiffens, but the fight has drained from him the crowd. The cameras, Eleanor's authority, have stripped him bare. As they're led away, Eleanor notices the young law clerk who'd tried to step forward earlier. She beckons. "Young man, what's your name?" "David Chen, Your Honor," he stammers, clearly stunned to be singled out. "Mr. Chen, you showed courage today. I'd like to speak with you about a potential clerkship in my chambers. His eyes go wide. Thank you, Your Honor. I would be honored. The crowd breaks into spontaneous applause, the sound rolling through the marble lobby like a storm. Lena raises her hand sharply. Silence falls. Don't applaud me. Her voice cuts through the air. Instead, remember this. The true measure of our justice system isn't how it treats the powerful. It's how it treats the vulnerable. The words land like a hammer strike. Phones catch every syllable. Chief Justice steps forward again, gesturing toward the inner chambers. Justice Robbins, your swearing-in ceremony awaits. This time, Eleanor allows him to escort her. Each step, supported by her cane, carries more dignity than any badge, gun, or uniform could ever hope to project. As she enters the courthouse, the wheels of justice begin to turn at unprecedented speed. The fallout by evening, the incident has detonated across social media. The headline blares across every major outlet. Supreme Court Justice shoved, handcuffed by officers on her first day. Clips from multiple angles: Thompson shoving Eleanor, Reeves kicking away her cane, the handcuff struggle loop endlessly online. Public outrage spikes. Chief Williams appears on television, sweat gleaming under the lights. His apology is stiff rehearsed. The actions taken by our officers today fall far below our standards. We extend our sincerest apologies to Justice Robbins and the public. A thorough investigation is already underway. Behind closed doors, chaos reigns. Emergency meetings, frantic memos, panicked calls from City Hall. Training protocols are rewritten overnight. Officers are warned, no citizen, regardless of appearance, is to be treated with anything less than full respect. 3 days later, Thompson and Reeves face departmental hearings. Thompson, flanked by a union representative, wears defiance like armor. I was following protocol. She didn't identify herself. How was I supposed to know who she was? The board chair doesn't blink. The issue isn't that you failed to recognize Justice Robbins. The issue is how you treat any citizen. Thompson's face cracks, disbelief spreading like rot. Reeves, in contrast, arrives alone. No union shield, no bravado. I accept full responsibility. I failed to intervene. I profiled her based on age and race. I assumed she didn't belong. His confession lands with brutal clarity. The room goes still. Meanwhile, Eleanor convenes the Judicial Reform Commission. In the meeting room, silence stretches as she plays the courthouse footage for judges, lawmakers, and community leaders. This isn't about me, she says. This is about how our temples of justice treat the people they serve. Dozens of citizens come forward with stories of disrespect, profiling, humiliation. Elderly black men denied entry. Disabled veterans mocked. Immigrant families treated like intruders. What happened to me made headlines because of my title, Eleanor says. But these indignities happen every day without cameras, without outrage, without consequence. The mayor, catching the political winds, announces the creation of a civilian oversight committee for courthouse security. Eleanor accepts an advisory role with firm conditions of transparency and real authority. Even the union backs away from Thompson. At first, they issue statements defending protocol. But once Eleanor's history in civil rights law floods the airwaves, they retreat. An internal memo leaks. The union cannot defend actions clearly contrary to constitutional rights. Thompson finds himself radioactive. Former allies avoid his calls. Fellow officers turn away in hallways. His past comes back to haunt him. 6 prior complaints in 3 years, all buried. All eerily similar. Elderly, black, immigrant, vulnerable. Now they resurface like ghosts. And Eleanor, she doesn't gloat. She doesn't need to. Because for the first time in decades, the system is finally listening. Reeves cooperates fully with investigators, offering detailed accounts of Thompson's behavior. His voice carries both shame and relief. I should have reported him earlier, he admits. My silence made me complicit. For the first time, the system seems to hear him. 1 week after the incident, Eleanor sits across from the police chief and the mayor in a private meeting. They brace themselves for fury, for demands that Thompson's head be delivered on a platter. Instead, she surprises them. Officer Thompson is not the disease, Eleanor says evenly, her cane resting beside her chair. Asterisk, asterisk, he is a symptom. Remove him, and the system remains unchanged. I'm not here for vengeance. I'm here to build a system where dignity is protected. Every citizen, every time. The mayor exhales in visible relief, nodding eagerly. The police chief, caught between admiration and unease, promises cooperation, but both fail to see the steel beneath her calm tone. Eleanor doesn't seek revenge. She seeks transformation, and she won't stop until she has it. 2 weeks later, body cam footage from Thompson's past surfaces through a Freedom of Information request. The videos are damning. Elderly black men dismissed. Immigrant mothers mocked. A disabled veteran shoved at the courthouse door. The union, once defensive, abandons him. Their statement is clinical, detached. The pattern of behavior demonstrated by Officer Thompson does not represent the values or conduct we expect from our officers. Translation: you're on your own, buddy. From her chambers, Eleanor watches the fallout. When her young clerk asks if she feels vindicated, she shakes her head. Vindication would mean this never happens again. We're not there yet. She knows the spotlight is on her only because of her title. Countless citizens endure the same humiliation with no cameras, no commissions, no mayoral pledges. Still, momentum builds. Police departments across the state scramble to revise training. Courthouse security protocols undergo sweeping reviews. Civilian oversight boards sprout up in 3 major cities. For Eleanor, it's the beginning. For Thompson, sitting alone in his dark apartment, the news coverage feels like a funeral march for his career. Every headline hammers the coffin shut. The disciplinary hearing the day arrives. Thompson shuffles into the hearing room, shoulders hunched, tie crooked. Once the swaggering gatekeeper of a courthouse door, he now looks like a man heading to the gallows. The review panel of 5 senior officers sits behind a long mahogany table. Stacks of evidence folders line up like silent jurors. His union rep, gone, officially. Irreconcilable differences, unofficially. Even the union doesn't want this mess on its hands. The room goes quiet as Eleanor enters, cane tapping against the tile. She doesn't sit at the head, doesn't demand center stage. Instead, she takes a modest seat at the side of the room. Yet her presence electrifies the air. Phones are banned here, but no one will ever forget this image. Thompson doesn't dare look at her. The chairwoman calls the session to order. Evidence plays on the large screens. Multiple angles of Thompson shoving Eleanor, Reeves kicking her cane away, Thompson forcing her arm back for handcuffs. The sound echoes, merciless. Thompson's face tightens as every second is dissected with clinical precision. Officer Thompson, the chairwoman begins, voice flat as steel. Your record shows 17 years on the force. It also shows 7 complaints of excessive force and discourteous conduct in the past 3 years. 5 involved elderly citizens. 6 involved minorities. Thompson swallows hard. Those complaints were dismissed. Dismissed, officer, she corrects coldly, is not the same as unfounded. Many were buried. There's a difference. His composure unravels. She didn't identify herself. She was slow with her ID. The chairwoman cuts him like a scalpel. And that justified shoving a 72-year-old woman and kicking away her mobility aid? Thompson stammers. I thought she was confused. She didn't look like she belonged. Silence crashes into the room. The chairwoman leans forward, eyes sharp. And tell us, Officer Thompson, what exactly does someone who belongs at a courthouse look like? The words hang heavy in the air, impossible to dodge. Eleanor doesn't speak, but her very presence is the answer. From Eleanor's perspective, this is the moment. Not triumph, not vengeance, but exposure. A rotten system dragged into the light. From Thompson's view, the walls finally close in, alone, cornered, no protocol left to hide behind. And still the real verdict hasn't been spoken, because Eleanor has yet to rise. His silence damns him more than any answer could. 2 hours of testimony grind him down until the chairwoman turns toward Eleanor. Justice Robbins, would you like to make a statement? The room stills. Eleanor rises, cane tapping once, twice, 3 times on the floor as she makes her way to the podium. Thompson finally lifts his eyes, his face carved in dread. Officer Thompson, she begins, her voice carrying the same quiet authority that silenced him on the courthouse steps. I do not stand here for vengeance. Your punishment does not interest me, but actions. She pauses, letting the silence press against him. Must carry consequences. His shoulders collapse further. Your greatest failure was not disrespecting me. Your failure was betraying the oath to protect and serve every citizen with equal dignity. The uniform you wear represents Justice Note intimidation. Her words slice cleaner than any verdict. From Eleanor's perspective, this isn't about one man. It's about setting the bar for an entire system. From Thompson's, every word strips away his last excuses, leaving him raw, exposed, and defenseless. Justice is not measured by retribution, but by restoration and prevention. I do not wish to see your life destroyed. I wish to see it transformed, along with the system that allowed this behavior to fester until the wrong target appeared before you. The panel listens, transfixed. She closes. Whatever decision you reach, let it be more than a reckoning. Let it be a commitment to systemic change. Deliberations last 40 minutes. Thompson sits frozen, staring at his hands as if they no longer belong to him. The verdict is brutal, final. Termination, permanent record of misconduct, recommendation against future law enforcement work. He doesn't flinch. Not until Eleanor intercepts him at the door. She leans in, her words for his ears alone. Your career may be over, but redemption, her eyes bore into his. Redemption is always possible if you can face the harm you caused. For the first time, he truly looks at her. Confusion mingles with shame, something else perhaps the flicker of a beginning. 6 months later, the courthouse lobby gleams under new banners. Welcome to your courthouse. Justice serves the people. Eleanor stands at the podium flanked by the Chief Justice and Police Chief. Cameras click furiously. Today we unveil new protocols that remind us. Courthouses belong to the people, all people. Appearance, age, ability, race, none of these should ever decide who belongs. The reforms run deeper than banners. Body cameras on every officer. Complaint procedures posted in plain sight. Weekly civilian oversight reviews. Training on bias, elder respect, disability awareness, de-escalational, born from her ordeal. Eleanor speaks plainly. We are not erasing our mistakes. We're learning from them. Reeves, spared termination for his cooperation, now leads training classes. He doesn't hide his shame. I failed that day. But failure becomes valuable when it leads to growth. His testimony reaches new recruits more than any lecture. From Eleanor's perspective, these are seeds fragile, but alive. 1 year later, the police academy morning light pours across the rows of cadets in crisp uniforms. Eleanor stands before them, her voice strong without a microphone. True authority doesn't come from a badge or a weapon. Power enforced through fear breeds resentment. Authority earned through respect creates justice. The cadets lean forward, hanging on each word. In the back row sits a face few recognize Thompson. No badge, no swagger. Just a man in plain clothes, carrying the weight of ruin and the possibility of rebirth. After her speech, Eleanor surprises the room. There is someone here whose journey embodies the path from power to true authority. Mr. Thompson, would you join me? Gasps ripple through the cadets. Whispers. Is that him? The officer from the videos? Thompson steps forward, each step heavier than the last. He takes the podium, his voice stripped of arrogance. A year ago, I mistook a badge for authority and force for respect. Justice Robbins showed me I was wrong. True power comes from dignity, not dominance. He tells his story, shame, downfall, rebuilding. He speaks of working at the senior center Eleanor guided him toward, of learning patience and humility from those he once dismissed. I once pushed away a woman's cane. Now I help steady the hands of elders as they walk. But failure became the teacher I needed. The room is silent. Cadets absorb not just Eleanor's lessons, but his living testimony. Eleanor looks on, her cane resting at her side. For her, this moment isn't triumph, it's proof. Proof that systems can bend, that even broken men can be reshaped. That justice, rooted in dignity, can transform both the powerful and the vulnerable. After the ceremony, Eleanor and Thompson stand in the quiet corner of the reception hall, away from the applause and handshakes. Thank you, he says softly, for not letting my mistake be the end of my story, but the beginning of my education. Eleanor studies him, eyes steady but kind. Your redemption wasn't my work, it was yours. You chose to learn instead of blame. That choice, that's justice too. Through the tall windows, she notices the courthouse across the street. At its entrance, 2 officers greet an elderly man with a walker. One holds the door, the other patiently helps him through the scanner. No suspicion, only respect. Eleanor's lips curve in the faintest smile. That's how it should be, she whispers, more to herself than to Thompson. From Eleanor's perspective, this moment is validation proof that change, both institutional and personal, is possible. From Thompson's, it is grace, the knowledge that his hardest lesson gave him a second chance to serve, not through force, but through respect. The Chief Justice approaches, champagne flute in hand. Justice Robbins, your reforms have now been implemented statewide. Complaints are down 80%. Public trust has doubled. Eleanor nods, satisfied but never complacent. There's still work to do, there always will be. Before leaving, she addresses the cadets one final time, her cane tapping lightly against the marble. The true measure of justice isn't how we treat the powerful, it's how we honor the dignity of every citizen who passes through our doors. As she exits, a cadet whispers, "What keeps her fighting after 50 years? Eleanor smiles, her voice steady as ever. Because dignity isn't earned by titles. It's the birthright of every human being. Fate Tales sign off. If this story moved you, he'd like to affirm that every person deserves respect, regardless of age, race, or appearance. Subscribe to Fate Tales for more true stories of courage, justice, and redemption narratives too often overlooked by mainstream media. Share your thoughts below. Have you witnessed discrimination based on appearance, age, or ability? How did you respond? At Fate Tales, we believe one moment of injustice can spark a movement for change. Help us make that call louder, stronger, and lasting.